Welcome to Season 2 of Around and Around the OCD Circle podcast. My name is Elizabeth, and I have been living with obsessive compulsive disorder for over 60 years. I am not a therapist or a medical professional. Each week, I will document my struggles and successes while having OCD. I will also speak with ordinary people, just like yourself, from around the globe, who have graciously agreed to share their OCD stories with you. I feel certain you will relate to some or all of their experiences. If at any time you feel like hurting yourself or ending your life, please call the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988 if you are in the United States. It is open 24 hours a day, and you will be connected with the nearest crisis center to receive immediate counseling and local mental health referrals. Now, on to today's episode. Good morning, everyone. I hope this morning finds you happy and healthy. And I'm going to go ahead and just jump right into this episode. I want to tell you a true story that happened last month. I live in Texas, and we experienced what is called a derecho, which is straight line winds. It went from Austin all the way to Florida, about 1,500 miles, and our neighborhood was caught in it, and that included tornadic winds up to 100 miles per hour. This was, I believe, May 17th, and I was going to a church to my grandson's graduation, and we experienced a tornado. I had never been in a tornado before. It did not sound like a freight train, but boy, it was very obvious what it was when it went over the church. The electricity went out, the place went dark, the kids were screaming. It was very, very scary, but I felt quite protected in this humongous building that we were in. I had not gotten gas on my way there because I was planning to get gas in my car on the way back. However, for the next 25 miles from the church to my home, everything was pitch black. There was no gas to be found. I almost ran out of gas on the way home. So I was pretty panicked. I got my wife on the phone. She told me to get on the freeway. Don't use side streets. All the lights were out. I would never make it home with that little gas. So just stay on the freeway. Right before our exit, the traffic stopped, and the cars in front of me on the freeway were turning around and coming straight towards me. So I turned around and went backwards on the freeway and exited down the up ramp, the entrance ramp. That's how I got off. I did make it home with very little gas. When I got home, I was just amazed. I'm used to hurricane weather. I'm not used to tornadoes. Our neighborhood looked like a war zone. Our neighborhood has never looked like this, even after a hurricane. There were trees down in the road. I had to drive around trees, and it was awful. So I got home, and we had no electricity, we had no internet, and we had no cell phone service. So it was very difficult to get any information. And for the next 6.5 days, we had no electricity. It was extremely hot. Other stresses that we had was we have an elderly dog who was in the last stages of heart failure, and he just could not take the heat. And there were a couple of times that week that we almost lost him because he stopped breathing. We lost all the food in our refrigerator and freezer, which wasn't a whole lot, but we did lose that. That last day, the Wednesday after the Thursday storm, it got the hottest in our house that I think it ever has. And we just went through so much stress. And you know that surprisingly during that time, my OCD issues were virtually non-existent. And I'm trying to figure that out because normally when I'm in a stressful situation, I tend to do rituals. I tend to have intrusive thoughts, and that's just how I get through things like that. But this time it was different. And I think it was because what we were going through together. I had to be present in the moment at all times. My wife and I were continuously trying to make a plan. How are we going to get food? The closest place to get food for the first couple of days was about 35 minutes away. And the closest place to get gas the first couple of days was 40 miles away from our home. And so we had to figure out how we're going to get food. How are we going to work because we both work from home? How are we going to do our jobs? And it was just, how are we going to communicate with people? I have elderly parents. But we stuck together and we worked together, and I had to be present in all of those conversations. And the only way I could be present was not to have these intrusive thoughts in front of me. Not one time did I really think about doing a ritual. I will admit that at night there were times that I did think about the person who I'm currently having OCD spell with, but they were calming thoughts. They weren't scary. And the only thing I have noticed is that now when we have a storm looming over us, if I'm away from home and a thunderstorm starts or flooding in the streets, which we have a lot, I mean, we're used to that. But even the smallest threat of flooding or thunderstorm, I just want to be home. I don't want to leave my home. I want to be home with my family. But that's not really OCD. I think that's more of a PTSD type situation, and I'm hoping that that changes. But I just wanted to tell you this story, and if any of you have had this happen, please let me know in the comments. Has some kind of event in your life happened and your OCD just went away for a while? And I think that has to do with me having to be present in all these conversations. I had to be there for my wife. I had to be there for my parents. And I had to be there for my fur babies because they were relying on me. And sometimes I think I use my OCD as a crutch. I mean, I don't think I do it intentionally, but I think my OCD is there to distract me from reality and from things that I need to do. And I think it's a coping mechanism for me. And so what I've been doing is listening to my hypnosis videos on YouTube at night. I have a playlist that's called Sleep OCD, and I listen to those as I go to sleep, and they play all through the night, and they really help me. So I would suggest that if any of you are having issues, especially at night, going to sleep, worrying, that you make a playlist on YouTube, Spotify, Pandora, wherever you can get the hypnosis type CD videos or playlist. I listen to the ones that have like rain sounds, waterfalls, crickets chirping. I listen to those first. They play for about an hour, hour and a half. And then as I'm sleeping, the ones where the person is talking, doing an actual hypnosis session, those start playing while I'm asleep. Because I have trouble going to sleep when there's someone talking. So this one I listen to the most to start, it has like, I guess it's rain, and it plays for about an hour. And if for some reason I'm not asleep before it goes to the one where they're talking, I just pull it up and I rewind it to the beginning and start over. because there are some nights it takes me longer than an hour to fall asleep. But I would really suggest that. It's really helped me. It's totally free on YouTube. Well, let me just put it this way. I have the premium YouTube where I pay $9.99 a month to have no commercials. And that's the reason I pay that, because if there's a commercial come on, it will wake me up. And so I do pay $9.99 a month for no commercials. You can do that on Spotify as well. I think it's $9.99 a month to have no commercials. And I would suggest that. It's well worth it. Okay, I'm going to stop for now. I invite you to join me on Thursdays. I do midweek motivations. If you're new to my podcast, hello. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget that there is a Facebook group associated with this podcast. It's also called Around and Around the OCD Circle. We're a small group right now. We're trying to grow. We are there for you to listen, to understand. So think about joining. It's totally free. Also, if you would like to come on my channel and tell your story, just contact me at any of my social media links below. I am sometimes slow at checking my emails, but I do check them periodically. I'll get back to you, get you on the schedule. I'd love to meet you. Until next time, have a wonderful, wonderful week. Remember that while OCD cannot be cured, it can be managed, and I'm living proof of that. I'll see you next time. Bye.